And this is the kind of performance where you can expect someone standing outside of the locker room with a cup telling your Greninja to go pee in it, because there is absolutely no way that one Pokemon should be taking out a team of 3 without some type of performance enhancing substance. What is going on, everyone? Ox here with another video. If you're new to the channel, we do upload Pokemon Go content mostly related to PvP, and if you're a returning subscriber like Daniel Flores, thank you for the support. In today's video, we are taking a look at some battles in the Open Ultra League with a very spicy team, which I would not recommend. However, it is going to be a bit easier to get away with a team like this in the early ranks of the season, which is where these battles take place today between ranks 13 and 14. The team being featured consists of Shadow Ampharos in the lead, Haxorus and Greninja in the back. This backline is going to be very weak to fairy type Pokemon, and the F rating in coverage should tell you everything else you need to know about just how many threats this team is actually going to face. With that said, Greninja with a boost apparently does not care about weaknesses. Let's put that theory to the test. Alright, so jumping into these battles, we are leading Shadow Ampharos, Greninja, and Haxorus in the back. Taking a look at the main threats to this team, there's a lot of them. I'd say what stands out the most is the grass types, especially in the lead, Fairy, and Dragon. So in this first matchup, we have Shadow Ampharos into a shiny Sylveon. Obviously, we cannot swap out, so we're forced to stay in this matchup here. This is going to be a losing matchup for Ampharos, provided that Sylveon does use a shield. So our only hope here is to get this low enough to a point where Greninja could come in and look to water Shuriken down while taking hopefully only a minimal amount of damage. So we will now come in with Greninja. Sylveon, of course, is loaded on energy. Have to respect the potential Moonblast here. They're going to bait with the Psy Shock, hoping to water Shuriken down before they reach another move, and unfortunately we don't. This should only be a Psy Shock, so we are going to no shield, and in terms of damage, that basically did the equivalent of one charm. The opponents comes in with a Shadow Wall Rain, but they swap out into Obstagoon to catch this Night Slash. Interesting play. We will now come in with the Haxorus. Haxorus has a decent matchup against this backline, but of course we'd much rather have Haxorus aligned onto the Obstagoon as opposed to the Shadow Wall Rain. Now here we do decide to go for the Earthquake. If this lands, Greninja basically has 2 Night Slashes ready to go, just one Water Shuriken away, and we still have a shield. So this first Night Slash is going to force the opponent's final shield. We get the unnecessary boost, and that second Night Slash is going to hit him with that bang. There it is. So that was an interesting matchup because although we are very weak to Fairy in the back, the opponent's team had a Fairy in the lead but very weak to Fighting in the back. And since they did not lure out the Fighter, once we got rid of the Charm user, their backline was left helpless, just like Luxembourg was in their 9-0 defeat to Portugal in Euro 2024 qualifying. Now, one of the main drawbacks to running a team like this is a neutral matchup like Cresselia. In this situation, we are forced to stay in this matchup because Cresselia defeats both of our backline Pokemon, but we also need to swap out in order to lure out a potential Charm user. Now, with a Cresselia in the lead, pairing it with a Charm user in the back probably doesn't make the most sense because you are going to have many ABA weaknesses, but at the same time, I'm saying this as someone who is running a team with a lot of ABA weaknesses. So at this point, things are looking great. Dominant position, Haxorus into Obstagoon, nothing to worry about until there is. And that thing is Togekiss. Now, we did lower the attack on Charm, but even so, we are still going down faster than Aaron Rodgers' season with the New York Jets. And I guess technically the correct play would be to go for the Night Slash, hope for a shield, get the boost, and then KO with a Hydro Cannon. The only problem is, even if that did work, Greninja is not going to have enough HP to take out the Obstagoon, and in the end, we lose regardless. So I feel like that was a good example of what can happen when you are running a team with an F-rated coverage by PvPoke. You could be in what seems like a very dominant position, and then out of nowhere, you're getting knocked out by a Togekiss, just like the USA got knocked out by Germany in the FIBA World Cup. In this next matchup, we had Ampharos into Slowking. Opponent swaps out into Drapion. We threw a Thunder Punch to make this matchup a bit easier before swapping out into the Greninja. Greninja actually has a pretty dominant matchup here, even if they are running Sludge Bomb, so perhaps that Thunder Punch wasn't necessary. And they come in with Poliwrath, which means that the rest of their team is very weak to Ampharos. So at this point, we are going to invest both of our shields. Even if they swap out to catch, both Pokemon are going to be hit with super effective damage. After investing our second shield, we are going to Volt Switch down this Poliwrath. The opponent will come back in with the Slowking. They're probably going to look to Confusion down. We'll get off one Thunder Punch, which forces the shield. The second Thunder Punch is going to put them in Breaking Swipe range. And the only lose con at this point is if the Slowking is running Blizzard. If this was a Slowbro, I'd probably be a bit more concerned about Ice Beam, but Blizzard requires a lot of energy, so most players aren't going to be running it. And Haxorus is going to survive the Psychic. Take out the Slowking with a Breaking Swipe, and we're off to a 1-0 start in this set. Now with its moveset, Greninja is a very spammy Pokemon, but it has a lot of weaknesses within the Ultra League meta. This next battle right here is a showcase of peak Greninja and just how powerful it can be, especially when you get the alignments you want and the Night Slash boost on the first attempt. Now when the opponent immediately swapped out, I stayed in for a bit with Ampharos. We are not running Trailblaze. The main reason for that is because I felt we had decent enough coverage already for Swampert in the back. The late swap was an attempt to catch a resisted Hydro Cannon, but coming from a Shadow Swampert, that still does close to 40% of our HP, so I probably should just swap out immediately. Either way, they do go for 2 Earthquakes. We correctly shield both, and since they can't come back in with Talonflame, they come in with a Shadow Snorlax instead. We are going to be resisting those licks, and since we have such a massive energy lead, plus the boost, 1 Hydro Cannon plus a Night Slash is going to take them out, preserving that final shield for the Talonflame, and they're about to go down in flames. Bang! There it is. Greninja with the sweep. And this is the kind of performance where you can expect someone standing outside of the locker room with a cup and telling your Greninja to go pee in it, because there is absolutely no way that one Pokemon should be taking out a team of 3 without some type of performance enhancing substance. Next matchup, we have a Scavalier in the lead. Since this Pokemon is a core breaker to the whole team, we may as well swap out into Haxorus, lure out the potential Fairy type if they have it. The Scavalier is going to be difficult to beat regardless. Wanted to build up to the Earthquake, but I felt they would throw the Play Rough before we reached it. That was a misplay on my part, and they do end up letting the Breaking Swipe go. At this point, we'll find out what moveset they're running. When they throw Play Rough, it's pretty clear that they're not running Brutal Swing. If they threw Brutal Swing, there would be an argument to come in here with the Greninja in the hopes that they're running Brutal Swing plus Overheat, especially with the lowered attack from the 2 Breaking Swipes. But after showing the Play Rough, we have no other choice but to come back in with the Shadow Ampharos. I really wanted to force a shield from the opponent before swapping out into Greninja, which of course has a very dominant matchup against Giratina Origin, and that's going to allow us to farm up some energy before taking it out. And to make the situation even better, we get the boost. This is key because now we could take out Galarian Weezing with a Night Slash. They let that go through, come back in with the Escavalier. Night Slash going to get the final shield, desperately going to try to swap out into the Ampharos, but we get stuck in the Water Shuriken animation. Of course, we have to shield this up, just hoping it's not an Acid Spray, because that is going to lower our defense to the point where counter might KO. This is going to be a race, and it's a draw. Considering how much of a core breaker Scavalier was for this team, and the fact that they had a Fairy type in the back, pretty pleased with that result. A draw is always better than a loss. Shadow Ampharos into Poliwrath is a win. The opponent swaps out into Skuntank, going to throw a Thunder Punch before swapping out into Haxorus. There's 2 reasons why I didn't swap out into Greninja. 1, Skuntank does now have access to Trailblaze, which would be dealing super effective damage, and 2, Greninja would be taking super effective damage from Poliwrath and its counters, so I prefer to give it less farm by coming in with the Haxorus, although I wish I threw 2 Breaking Swipes here because I'm already down 1 shield, and since the attack wasn't lowered on this Poliwrath, I'm going to be forced to burn a second shield and go down 2 now, making this situation pretty rough for us. As always, if there is ever a lose con to be found, I will find it. So we swap out into Greninja. If they were running Sludge Bomb, this could be pretty problematic being down a shield, but it turns out that they are running Crunch plus Aqua Tail. We are going to reach back-to-back Hydro Cannons. First one forces the shield, and I really need this second one to KO. If it doesn't, I'm worried that they're going to outpace to the Crunch. They, however, bank a move and swap out into Poliwrath, which means Hydro Cannon will take them out. We swap out to the Ampharos. This forces their energy to be thrown. Crunch takes us out, and now it's a race. Water Shuriken able to take out the Drapion, and we pick up that win in dramatic fashion after almost throwing the game. As we head into this next matchup, Shadow Ampharos into Haxorus. Once again, another core breaker for this team. And what you may notice is that this Haxorus is also running Dragon Tail, which means that it's also going to destroy us in the mirror match. So I decided that we're going to stay in here with the Ampharos, throw a move, tank a breaking swipe, and then swap out into our own Haxorus. Now I was extremely fortunate here to outpace to that breaking swipe while also getting them to throw their own. This gives us a 2-shield advantage, but also means that Greninja is going to be able to outpace to a move before Haxorus could lower our own attack with a breaking swipe. I went for the Hydro Cannon. They do the same amount of damage, but Night Slash would have been more energy efficient. But now we have Greninja aligned onto a Swampert, 2-shield advantage, and if there's anything we've learned from this video thus far, Greninja with a shield advantage is a dangerous man. Heracross came in to catch a Hydro Cannon, but instead gets sacrificed to the gods. Swampert comes back in, and at this point we're going to need 2 moves, so it's a good thing we got that Water Shuriken upgrade from Bubble, so we can get off that back-to-back and hit him with that bang. There it is. Now this team was spicy, and we definitely got a bit lucky, but Greninja with Water Shuriken and Hydro Cannon is an absolute menace, and if you can get the alignment or the boost, it's a force to be reckoned with. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and a comment down below, and if you'd like to see more content like this, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.